Hi, I'm James Zimmerman, MSFS class of 2013. One of the great things about Georgetown's MSFS program is the alumni network, spread out across the globe in the government, business, and nonprofit sectors. Today, I'm going to catch up with MSFS alum, author, and lawyer, Jason Whiteley. Hey Jason, thanks for meeting with me today.
No problem.
So I'd like to start off just if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your experiences that led you to come to Georgetown.
Sure. I'm originally from Texas. I grew up in a small sort of rural community. I went to the United States Military Academy at West Point. I graduated from there in 1999. Spent about 6 years in the Army, including a deployment of just over a year to Iraq for OIF-2. And after that, I came back to Washington, D.C., and I started at the Georgetown Law School. After the first year of law school, I decided that law wasn't probably as fulsome as I wanted it to be inside my new academic experience. And so I applied to the School of Foreign Service and finished with a joint degree in 2009.
In your book, you talk about your experiences in Iraq. I'm wondering how your experiences there kind of led you to want to apply to Georgetown and study international relations.
Sure. So I actually applied and was accepted to Georgetown before I went to Iraq. And the Army stop-loss me, meaning they didn't let me leave, and I had to stay, but I had only applied to the law school portion. One of the things that when I got to Georgetown, I learned about the School of Foreign Service, and I thought about my time in Iraq, and I thought, I have a story to tell. I certainly have some experiences that I think are relevant to the program. I probably could learn a little bit about what I maybe should have done versus what I did, and so I decided to apply on that basis.
So in your post-graduation life, has there been a moment when you thought back to something that you learned while at Georgetown that you kind of repurposed and it came back to you later and you applied it in this situation?
Sure. I'd step back and say before I even graduated, being a joint degree student gave me a couple options that straight law students didn't have, and one of them was I could sort of take some finance classes, learn a little bit more about economics. I spent a summer at Goldman Sachs in the investment banking division, sort of applying some of those finance skills, and then when I started at my firm in London just shortly after graduation, I found myself working on a project that was distributed across probably 50 or 60 countries. Attorneys from all different countries, on the same conference call, each working to independently prepare a report that then I would have to compile into something for the client, a lot of it being very numbers-based, and very little of that transaction involved law, certainly no New York law. It involved a lot of sort of cross-cultural communication. It involved a lot of managing expectations and sort of interpreting intent based on what different lawyers from different jurisdictions were saying, and managing conflict just amongst our own team. And it involved a heavy dose of sort of financial modeling. All of those skills came from MSFS. And so I think that the completion of that project was probably my MSFS moment, as you would call it, because I think without the tools that I had learned at MSFS, I would have been incapable of leading that project.
How do you think the MSFS program changed you personally? Did you notice any personal growth before and after?
I would say that MSFS raised my level of cultural awareness and sort of global understanding, and I mean that in a very precise and applied way. I came from a small rural town in East Texas, culturally homogenous. I didn't really travel very frequently. Even in the Army, I lived in Texas. My really first deployment was to Iraq, and it's sort of a great sort of story of where I was at that point in my life. I was trying to learn Arabic, so I was studying an Arabic phrasebook over and over, and I decided to test it out on some of the people who worked in the kitchen when we were in Kuwait. But the people who worked in the kitchen were actually from Sri Lanka. I had no idea that this was a different country, no idea this was a different language. That was sort of Jason before MSFS, and it started a year of learning, sort of 14 months of learning at a very quick pace in Iraq. I don't think I would ever make a similar mistake now because I'm obviously more contemplative, I'm more developed. I've met people from literally probably over 150 countries just at MSFS alone. And so I don't think that this Jason would ever be sort of as naive and sort of narrowly focused as that Jason, and I'm really proud of that development.